Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another installation of Season 2 of the Loden Sports Outlier Sessions. My name is Matt Pajak, co-founder of Loden Sports. Before we get started, quick plug on what Loden Sports is. We are the affordable human performance data provider. If you're interested in learning more about how we benchmark athletic development, inform athlete health and readiness, and identify outliers, visit our website at www.lodensports.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Loden Sports, and read our blog, which is also available through our website. I also want to throw a shout out to our friends at Yellow Box Macaroons, the first unofficial sponsor of the Loden Sports Outlier Sessions. If you're a fan of sweet treats, their hand-curated coconut macaroons are a must. Continuing on the tradition of Jackie Weiss, Yellow Box Macaroons is the most delicious box of macaroons in the world. If you don't like coconut or macaroons, that's on you. Find your next box on www.yellowboxmacaroons.com or on Instagram at yellowboxmacaroons. The Outlier Sessions have been created as a way to bridge the gap and create a connection between the aspiring and the achieving. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Our guest on today's Outlier Session is Vanderbilt Outfielder and MLB Draft Prospect Spencer Jones. Now, I feel like that doesn't do him justice. Spencer is one of the more unique draft prospects in that he's a 6'7", 230-pound outfielder who can really run. We put him through an eval last month in Nashville and certified him as a .2 percenter, a very unique blend of size, power, and speed, a true outlier athlete. We're just a few days away from the 2022 MLB Draft. Next week, Spencer will be rocking a new fitted cap, so we thought we'd bring him on, learn a little bit more about him, his development, getting more in touch with who he is as an athlete, and his recent experience at the MLB Draft Combine. Spencer, thanks for hopping on with us.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for joining us. Obviously, it's going to be a hectic week for you. Maybe it's the calm before the storm, but are you nervous at all? You got a big weekend coming up. What's going through your head right now?
Not too nervous. This has been a long time coming, in a lot of senses. This is something that I've always dreamed about is, being able to hear my name called and have my family and friends around. So I'm just living in the moment. I'm enjoying this week and what's coming up. But for now, I'm just trying to have fun with my family and enjoy these, couple weeks that I've had back at home.
Love it. Give us a little background on yourself. You played the last 3 years at Vanderbilt in Nashville, obviously out in Tennessee, home for you, Southern California. Talk a little bit about, where you grew up and kind of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, of course. So I grew up in Encinitas, California. My parents still live here, and so do, a lot of my family members. But it's a nice little beach bubble community in North County, San Diego. I live like 5-10 minutes from the beach. So living in Southern California, there's a lot of opportunities to play baseball. I was really close with my Little League group and, on that whole community. And as I just kind of got older and started taking baseball more seriously, just because I was, getting bigger and faster and stronger and realizing that baseball is something that, I want to do and that's what I love to do. I started doing travel ball tournaments and this, that, or whatever. And at one of them, Vanderbilt scouted me as an outfielder way back in the day. But yeah, when I met those guys, I felt like it was a match made in heaven. I went on a few visits to other schools in the California area. And my parents were like, we'll pay for one flight for you to get out of state, wherever you want to go. And for me, it was Vanderbilt. So that was always the dream. And I'm so glad that I've been able to spend the last 3 years there. I couldn't see myself going to any other program or living anywhere else in the country. So
that's awesome. I look forward to a little bit further into this, getting a little bit more into the nitty-gritty on your experience at Vanderbilt and all the different things that went on. But before we really get rolling on things, I got a couple quick hitters for you. It should be just a quick, one-word answer, yes, no, whatever it may be, just in the spirit of, your background. You ready?
Of course.
All right. Were you bummed when the Chargers left for Los Angeles?
No.
Do you surf?
To go a little bit. Oh, yes. No, I don't surf. I don't consider myself a surfer.
Longboard?
No, I'm just now, I have buddies who surf, 5-6 times a week, and it'd be lucky to get me out there once every month. So I wouldn't consider myself a surfer, but I can surf if you made me.
All right. So if it's not surfing, Let's talk about food a little bit. California burrito or fish taco?
California burrito.
Yeah, that's one of the greatest food items ever.
I grew up on those, man.
What's the best burrito you've ever had?
There's this shop just down the or down the street from my house. It's called Los Tacos off of Encinitas Boulevard, and they have this burrito. It's the Dos Amores burrito. It's just a wonderful, beautiful burrito. It's al pastor, French fries, cabbage, shrimp, everything. And it's just so perfectly wrapped up. It's like one of those things where you don't really forget your first bite. So I come home and that's the first thing my parents get for me is one of those burritos as soon as I walk in the door. So,
Yeah, I mean, that sounds amazing. Stashing that in my back pocket for the next time I'm in Southern California. I had San Diego burritos and fish tacos for a week when I was in college. And there's really nothing quite like it anywhere else in the country. It's kind of hard to explain to people who haven't had it, but yeah, jealous of what you just described.
yeah, in Nashville, they give me a hard time because I say my favorite food's Mexican food, but they have no idea.
All right, so I feel like this is a layup then. Better food city, San Diego or Nashville?
San Diego.
Yeah.
I love Nashville, but I mean, I grew up on, refried beans and cheese. So,
All right, last one on the quick hitters. Favorite city you've ever been to?
ooh,
It could be a town. It could be a town too. It doesn't have to be a city.
it's got to be Nashville. Now that, I have some roots there and I'm able to figure out, the things that I like to do out there, it's got to be my most favorite city. But as far as visiting college towns, like I loved Athens. I liked Oxford a lot. I thought Fayetteville, Arkansas was a really cool place too. So,
Yeah, you might be outside of alumni of Arkansas. You might be one of the only people to name a city in Arkansas. Yeah, let's go ahead and roll into some long-term athlete development. It's something that's near and dear to our hearts at Loden Sports. So naturally, we're going to hit you with a few of our signature LTAD questions before we get more into your journey. So, emotional well-being. It's really important. We like to keep it at the forefront of our priority list every day. An easy way to do that is to dwell on and deliberate on gratitude. So, Spencer, what are 3 things that you're grateful for today?
I'm grateful for my family and their health more than anything. I've been lucky that I've had such a big family and everybody's been around for so long and always supported me. So I'm extremely grateful for my family. I'm extremely grateful for, the relationships that I've been able to build in Nashville and the community out there. And, those people are very special and, they mean a lot to me. It was a huge part of my life. And then thirdly, I'd say I'm grateful for, just the experience of where I'm at right now and being able to appreciate the moment and, see some fruits of the labor, come to it. But, this is only a step in the right direction. And I'm just grateful that I'm, moving that way towards the ultimate goal. So.
Awesome. I've got secondhand gratefulness for you for the Dos Amores burrito.
Of course.
For me today, because I've been doing this every day for over 4 years now, so trying to find new things to be grateful for. I guess when you're grateful isn't necessarily a challenge, but it is something that I got to be a little bit more creative with. So one for me today is clean tap water, because a lot of places in this world you can't drink what's coming out of the tap. 2, leftovers that keep well and having a fridge that you can keep them in, especially in the summer when it's like 100 degrees outside. And then 3, this is probably one that doesn't pop up on too many people's lists, but I've had a mostly reliable experience with them over the course of my life, the United States Postal Service. I think they actually do a pretty good job for what they offer.
Oh, it's so funny. I actually just used the United States Postal Service yesterday. I sent my buddy a package. He's getting surgery, so I sent him some goodies from down here just to cheer him up a little bit.
That's awesome. Do you send him a burrito?
I wish, if it kept well, right?
Yeah, right.
I just don't know. I don't know how it's going to do in the plane or whatever. So,
All right. Well, our second LTAD question is about ignition. I love ignition. This is kind of what keeps the fire lit for the athlete to continue to want to play their sport. Honestly, it's part of the reason why I do what I do. I mean, it's not about playing the sport necessarily, but being involved. And I can think back to when I was a kid and just how much I loved the sport of baseball and how driven that was by all kinds of different factors and never really being pushed in that direction. So, we're kind of facing it not just in baseball, but in every sport in this country right now. A lot of kids are quitting sports as they get to high school because they were pushed too hard as kids from parents or coaches or whatever that may be. So ignition is very organic. It's what captures the interest of the young athlete. It could be a person in your life, someone you grew up watching, a moment. Spencer, talk to us a little bit about what or who ignited you when you were younger to pursue this path.
So I would say my family definitely ignited me for this. I feel like what ignites me day to day is like I do this for me, because I want to be as good of an athlete as I could be or as great of a baseball player I can be and play it at the highest level. So, my family's been very supportive in that. I see how hard my parents work, just trying to raise the family. I have 3 older brothers, so having 6 of us in the house and then having to work just to, keep everything in order, inspires you a lot. And so for me, I just see this as, a great chance for me to, give back to them, but at the same time, do it for myself because it's so gratifying to be able to see yourself grow, as an athlete and as a person, within the world of sports.
So you just hit on something there. You get 5 other siblings and what did you say, 3 older brothers?
I got 3 older brothers. That's it. Yeah.
So what's the average height in your house? And are they also athletes or what are they up to?
So yeah, I got 3 older brothers. The oldest one, Wesley, he's married. He's about 6'3", 6'4", and he played football and rugby and lacrosse in high school, but didn't stick with any sports into college. And he went to art school, and him and his wife are both artists, and he's working as a bartender, and he's got he's doing more classes to build up his resume. So he's been doing that. I have another brother, Ethan, who's out in Belgium right now. He's about 6'5", and funny enough, he's actually playing baseball right now. He's doing the club team out at his master's program. So he didn't play any sports either. He played baseball in high school a little bit, but I think he was pushed too hard when he was younger and kind of burned out of it. But he's the one that really drove me towards baseball because he was so into it at a young age. I would just follow him around everywhere. So he's out in Belgium. He comes back in September. And then my brother, who's just a year older than me, he's living in Philly right now. He played lacrosse and he played lacrosse and football growing up with me, and we used to work out together all the time. But since he's dropped it since he's gone to college, and he's more focused in music, he's in a band and they're doing some touring and some recording and stuff. So I'm excited for him. He's been doing extremely well since leaving the nest. So.
Well, it sounds like you got a good mix there, and shout out to your parents. Obviously, very athletic family, but at the same time, it sounds like you guys have a lot of different creative interests too, which I think is super important for kids growing up.
Yeah.
And shout out to your brother in Philly, another really good food city. So.
I know. I need to get out there and try one of the cheesesteaks.
Yeah,
I've heard so much about it. So.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the journey in our blog post. And if you haven't read it yet, check out lodensports.com/blog. It's titled MLB Draft Spotlight, Spencer Jones, an outlier athlete. We wonder where you'd be had you grown up in a different part of the country. So Southern California, baseball heavy region. Did anyone ever try and get you in pads? Did you ever play basketball growing up? Was it always baseball, or could it have been something else?
Yeah. So, I played a lot of baseball growing up and in Little League and stuff. And I was doing, when I was a little kid, I was doing Pee Wee soccer and baseball and all that. But baseball is the only sport I've played consistently my whole life. I did basketball in middle school and at the end of elementary school. And for me, it was fun. But I just, the coach's kid was above me. And I was like, I'm not going to sit on the B team well, your kid gets all the opportunities. So I kind of faded out of basketball once I got to high school, and I played a little bit of football when I was younger, but it just wasn't my thing. More than anything else, I didn't really like what it was about. Wasn't really big into hitting other kids, or getting hit. So I wrapped that up before I got to high school. But the high school coach would always try to recruit me. He'd always say, "We need a new tight end. How about you come play for us?" Or, "Oh, we need somebody on the end to go play D line." He tried consistently for 3 years and eventually gave up on my senior year. So.
Well, I'm glad that he did, because athletes, baseball needs athletes like you. There's a couple of them out there, 6'7", running around doing some pretty freaky things at the highest levels. Obviously, got Aaron Judge and Oneil Cruz, and we can get into that a little bit later on. But pretty cool to have an athlete of your size that in a lot of other parts of the country is probably playing football or basketball or something else. So happy to have you in baseball.
Appreciate it.
Let's timeline the whole pitcher, position player, both. No, I'm a pitcher, wait, I'm a position player now thing. Most 6'7" players, and it's probably one of the reasons why 6'7" baseball players aren't playing baseball and they're playing other sports, is they're often pushed to the mound. And as we objectively know, most 6'7" players don't have your raw athleticism. More on that later. But did Vanderbilt recruit you as a pitcher or a position player, or was it a we'll figure it out when he gets here situation?
So yeah, it was one of those we'll figure it out when you get here kind of things. So I committed really early in high school. I committed as a freshman. And back then I wasn't pitching. I was just playing outfield and first base and running around and being an athlete and stuff like that. And then going into my senior year, I started focusing more on pitching and getting my arm in shape to get on a mound, because, my whole life I've been pushed towards a mound. We just always been able to defer it, just like, just give him another year, it'll be fine. But so I started pitching and taking it more seriously, and I did the showcase circuit and went to all those fun All-American games, and they saw me more as primarily a pitcher than a position player. And, that didn't sit right with me, because I always hit growing up, and through high school for the first few years, I was always just a hitter first. And then once I got on the mound and was throwing a bunch, my arm just got tired and led to an injury. Broke my elbow my senior year of high school, literally on a pitch in a game. I threw a curveball and I just felt the snap. And so that was March of my senior year. I had to go and get surgery to fix that up. I had a couple pins put in there. And then from there, I was just hitting, just DHing. They sent me to a summer league before my freshman year of college. And yeah, from there, I was just hitting, having fun, doing whatever. And once I showed up on campus, my arm hadn't really healed as much as we would have liked, but they still had me out there playing first base every single day and, in the lineup and hitting a bunch. And I was hitting well. I just wasn't, throwing up to par. And then the season gets cut short. COVID happens and everything. And I get enough time to rehab my arm finally after a year or so. And I built myself back up pitching wise, was working with my pitching coach again, was back to where I was in high school and throwing the ball hard. And then they sent me out to summer ball again to the same team in Santa Barbara. And I was two-waying, I was playing first base and I was pitching. And then it was just one night, I did a quick inning, sat on the bench for, 20, 30 minutes. We had scored a couple runs, and then I get back out there, and it was like the fourth or fifth pitch of an inning, threw a curveball, and I kind of felt a twinge. And from there, I kind of had a feeling something might have been wrong. But yeah, turns out I tore my UCL and had to get Tommy John surgery, which was a huge blow to me, because I knew that meant, I couldn't be hitting, as soon as I wanted to be, or being able to play every day. And so 2 arm injuries in 2 years was a major buzzkill for me. And when I showed up back on campus, I told the coaching staff, like, hey, I want to rehab this as a position player. I want to come back as soon as possible. I want to be able to play every day and, play outfield or first base, wherever you guys need me to play. Just this, pump the brakes on pitching for now. And then I went through the whole year. It was just kind of half a year, really. That's what it felt like, because I didn't feel too involved in what was going on in the field, because I was dealing with so much stuff off the field with rehab. And then I went to the Cape And that's where they, took the training wheels off and they said, all right, you go play every day. Don't worry about your arm. It's completely fine. Go build up strength, go play every day, go and get as many reps as you can and come back in the fall and get ready to go. And so it wasn't until my junior year of fall that it was the first time I came in healthy and ready to play. And for me, that was a huge difference maker. And I was just able to focus on playing a position, playing outfield, and hitting every day, and not have to focus on, stuff on the mound or stuff that was taking me away from what I have to do, which is hit. And so once I started hitting a bunch, it was kind of clear that that was going to be the focus for the year. And since then, I haven't really looked back, and hitting looks like, my main thing going forward.
Well, kudos to you and your conviction, I guess, at every step of the way towards you being a position player, because you kind of touched on it a little bit. When you're in high school, that showcase summer, it's got a way of kind of pushing certain players in certain directions. And like you said, I remember watching the PG All-American game, and I remember seeing you pitch an inning, and I don't, not saying that you didn't hit in that game, but I don't really remember whether you got an at-bat or not. But, it's just kind of the nature of the beast is that, they kind of put you in the box. And, I want to say, obviously kudos to you for all the way up to this point, being pretty steadfast on being a position player, and it's paying off.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. I actually did get an at bat that game. I got a hit and I stole the base and I scored a run. So it's like I did my position player stuff, but everybody remembers the pitching. So
there you have it.
You're not the only one.
Let it be on the record.
Yeah.
So kudos to you for a third time, but also kudos to Vandy for believing in you and providing that opportunity for you to claim that role as a position player, and kind of sticking with you through, the Tommy John and the cracked elbow and all the rest. After all you've been through, this past year was really your first full season. Going into the spring, you had 130-ish at-bats, at Vanderbilt, about a freshman's workload. The SEC's a meat grinder. You hit 370 with an OPS over 1,100 for the year, but 354 with an OPS over 1,000, with 7 home runs in conference on the toughest track in the country. Kind of explain yourself a little bit. I know it wasn't a surprise to you, but, talk about kind of what the first full season as a position player was like.
Yeah, it was special. It's always something I dreamed of, being able to play every day and be a impact guy in a lineup like at a school at Vanderbilt. So for me, it was just taking ownership of you're good enough. For me, it was like it took me a while to realize like, hey, you're good enough to play here, and that's what I learned in the Cape. Was like I belong. And so once I was able to get that self-belief to where I could carry that forward, and I gained a bunch of strength in the weight room, and so I was all confidence going into the season. And what I learned more than anything else in playing the SEC is that there's a lot of really, really talented players out there. So, the work isn't over. Obviously, there's only better players in professional baseball and more talented guys than you out there. So, it was cool just because I was able to, I knew in my heart that I was able to do it, but I was able to go out there and prove it to everybody else every single weekend. So, very special for me and special for my family for sure.
Yeah, I think it speaks volumes to kind of what your future ceiling is, that you're able to do that in your first full season. Yeah, I hate to harp on it, but the SEC really is that's the track you want to be on if you want to go prove yourself, and you led Vandy in hitting in the SEC conference. So I can only imagine, in a vacuum, if that's what the first full pass through the SEC looked like. I'd love to see an encore in 2023. I know I'm not going to get that. This isn't a vacuum, and obviously you're moving on to the next challenge. But I think this is the exciting thing about you from a baseball standpoint, is that there's probably more in the tank, as you get more comfortable with full seasons against good competition. So, I don't know, kind of moving along a little bit to get back to your height, I guess. What are your thoughts on the stigma against tall players, especially tall position players?
I think it's hilarious. I mean, personally, because even at the combine when I was running around and doing things, everybody was like, "Oh, you're a pitcher, huh?" And I was like, "No, actually, I'm playing a position." But I mean, you go back in baseball history, and there was a bunch of really tall baseball players, outfielders especially. You had like Winfield and Darryl Strawberry and all them that were big athletic guys that moved really well for their size. And so for me, it's just kind of, I don't want to say breaking down that stigma, but at the same time, it's like I'm as good as anybody else, my size or shorter. So I just think it's cool being able to play a position at my size because a lot of the pitchers my size are so jealous of it. So I love it.
That's awesome. And people throw Aaron Judge's name around a lot with you. Obviously, he's leading candidate for the MVP this year, which that's a solid name to have attached to you, I guess, going into the draft. But I think it's mostly because he's as established as he is. But how about some of the other 6'7" position players making some noise around baseball? Like, have you seen Oneil Cruz play? I think from watching him, he's kind of got a similar body, a similar athlete in terms of the way he can run. And then there's a guy in A-ball with the Padres. He was a high pick last year, James Wood, 6'7", 240, playing center field, hitting home runs, stealing bags. What are your thoughts on some of these other guys and some of your thoughts on the comps to Aaron Judge or other guys that size?
I love it. I mean, I love seeing other guys my size playing the game at a high level, and for me, it's like you don't really see it that often, obviously. And for me personally, I always felt like I don't want to say a special case, but I knew in my mind it's like there's nobody else out there on the field that looks like me, that plays like I do, with what I can bring to the table. And so I've seen Oneil Cruz, a bunch of his highlights, and he's an exciting player, and he's only going to get better as time goes on for sure. And James Wood, I've seen highlights of him on Twitter and stuff, and that guy's definitely a stud. So I think it's super cool to see guys like my size moving around and playing really well. It's just, part of the club, right? Trying to join it.
That's it. I think it sets a really good precedent for, you entering pro ball where it's, you don't have to do all the swatting away of, no, I'm not a pitcher, I'm not a pitcher, because there's other guys out there that are doing things at a high level and flashing some really top of the scale tools doing it. That are your size. And I always thought that the whole, 6'7" guys don't play outfield, or how many 6'7" guys do you see playing outfield? Oh, there can only be Aaron Judge. Like, that whole argument always was never anything that connected with me, because when you really think about it, like, the majority of baseball players entering professional baseball are, 6 foot to 6'2". So, like, is 6'2", 190 pounds a qualifier for playing center field? No, it's just the majority of the pool that comes into professional baseball is around that size. So that's why you don't see a ton of 6'7" guys playing center field. Now, if there was an equal amount of 6'7" guys coming into professional baseball, you'd probably see a lot more 6'7" guys doing a lot of different things. Fact of the matter is, that's just uncommon. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox on that one. But yeah, I've seen that argument, and I just think it's a little bit foolish because it's just short-sighted.
No, I agree.
Let's talk about raw athleticism. Loden Sports considers any athlete that scores a 9 or higher on a Loden Sports evaluation to be an outlier. You're a 9. You're an outlier. It's pretty cool. Did it surprise you at all that you were that much of an objective outlier when we did the testing?
A little bit. I always knew I was really athletic for my size, but I didn't really know how it stacked up compared to other athletes, around the country, people that you guys have tested. So I was excited to see, how I stacked up and how my body was moving and all that. And yeah, it's just cool to be able to quantify that kind of stuff, because in the past you haven't really been able to do that. And I only feel like I could be a better athlete at some point, and we have to go and get tested again someday when I'm moving even better than I am right now. So
yeah, we'll keep benchmarking it. I know when we sat down last month in Nashville after eval, you learned quite a bit about your athleticism, how it translates to the field. Do you feel like you have an understanding of the role that sustaining athleticism on your pro journey will have on your longevity?
Yeah, I definitely feel like maintaining and preserving my athleticism is the most important thing, because taking care of your body at the end of the day is the most important thing when it comes to professional sports. And along with that comes with, maintaining that athleticism. And so for me, that's been my main focus since I've been home, since the combine, is training athletic movements and continuing to build up that twitch that I have, more than anything. So for me, as I age and hopefully age gracefully, I just want to keep the the legs moving right and make sure everything's as explosive as it has been in the past, or if not more explosive. So.
Awesome. How did you or will you use the information provided from the Loden report in your athletic development? Was it easy to follow when you were looking at it?
Yeah, it was definitely easy to follow, and it helped me target things that I needed to work on. And being able to do those things has helped me, marginally, but at the end of the day, marginal increases are, what makes the biggest difference over time. So I've been able to do those things and better understand my body and what I need to do to take care of it, and, maintain these movements that that I'm making. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think just from our conversation, immediately following the eval, you seem to be grasping things pretty well. And it seems like a priority for you to take care of your body and make sure that, you keep up with your physical gifts. Obviously, from everything that we know objectively, there's a reason why you're outputting 110 plus mile per hour exit velocities, and you're a top of the scale runner, and a lot of that's due to your athleticism, and obviously from a longevity standpoint, if you're able to measure that over time, that's your longevity. So let's talk a little bit about the MLB Combine, which I know was the week after we met out in Nashville. How was that experience? I know it was back home for you. What did they have you do? What do you think was the most beneficial part of it from your standpoint?
So yeah, the combine was awesome. Having it be practically in my backyard in Petco Park was super cool, because I was able to show guys around that I've known forever, haven't been able to connect with in a long time, that I've played with in the past, and show them around my city a little bit. So, I really enjoyed the whole experience. They put us in a hotel close to the ballpark, and what they had for the most part, it was just the top 300 guys, and it was pretty much half high school, half college. And so while the high school guys were playing, a lot of college guys were doing meetings with professional clubs, or they were doing, medical examinations or strength and conditioning, which was a lot of range of motion testing, measuring different body parts, just so they could get some data points on, the way that we are. And so out there, I did a little bit of the on-field workout. I threw from the outfields, I hit on the field, and then I ran a 30-yard dash, and did the strength and conditioning segment with all the measurements. And then on top of that, there was a lot of meetings that happened. So for me, I felt like that was the best part, was being able to see, scouting directors and whoever else face to face instead of over a Zoom call like we had been doing in the past. So I think it was cool just being able to, connect with the baseball world in that sense. And it kind of just felt like, I don't want to say a victory lap, but pretty much a victory lap for a lot of these guys who just finished up their seasons and are just able to, take this as a transitioning point into the professional world. I feel like it was definitely something that was able to ease our tensions a lot moving forward, because it answered so many questions that we had, as we get along in this process. So it was a really special event, and I really enjoyed it.
That's awesome. And, I've heard from a number of different perspectives, just how valuable that experience is, specifically, from the club side, being able to sit down, have the interviews, get face-to-face, and really learn a lot more about the different players that were there from the interview standpoint. So glad you had, the experience that you had, and, obviously it being in your backyard is the cherry on top. Let's talk a little bit about the athletic testing. Did it make a bit more sense after our eval session the week before, kind of some of the stuff that they were having you do at the combine?
Yeah, of course. So being able to work with you guys and being able to do sprint testing and run a 30-yard dash, which I haven't done in my amateur baseball career. I'd always been doing the 60. And so being able to focus on that 30-yard and, what it takes to get a good time there with acceleration, I felt like that was really really important, as well as the jump testing. We hadn't really been doing as much jumping at school, but being able to go out there and test jumps with you guys before I went out and did it at the Combine, it allowed me to, see things that I needed to work on, or movements that I could definitely get better at. But I was definitely prepared going into the Combine after working with you guys. So,
well, we're glad to be a resource for you. Anytime you need us for whether it be testing or you have questions on anything. So, we're happy to share as much as we could with you heading into that experience to prepare you in the best way that we could. We don't want to keep you too much longer. We have a handful of questions here that we've collected from within the Loden Sports Network. So, yeah, let's see what you got for Mike in Colorado, who wants to know if you remember the players that were ahead of you skill-wise when you were younger, and did you believe you'd catch them? Also, what age did you start thinking about this?
So, yeah, this is one of those things that didn't really happen for me until I went to college, because in high school I was always a big fish in the small pond in the San Diego circuit. And I was always bigger, faster, stronger back then. And then once you get to college and you're, playing on an SEC team, it's a reality check, even with the guys on your team. And so once I got there and saw how, the top level guys in the country work, like I was able to see how Austin Martin went about his business, Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter, to see these unbelievable talented players that had an unbelievable work ethic too. So for me, that was my first time seeing players like that. And I knew I wanted to get to that point. And, it obviously took time. They had been there a lot longer than I had, but that was my reality check, and realizing like, hey, if I want to get good at this, there's a lot of things I need to work on. And it definitely drove me to where I'm at today.
Yeah, when I initially read the question, I kind of felt like you might go in that direction, just because of, I remember you in high school, how big you were. But, I think that it happens, eventually if you keep playing whatever sport you're playing, like it happens eventually where you sit there and you say, all right, like I'm no longer way ahead of everyone, or, this is me catching up. I guess it's kind of like the beauty of the development arc is that it's nonlinear and it happens at different paces for every athlete. So really good perspective there. Joe in California wants to know that as a high school athlete, what was the ratio of practice to playing in competitive games for you?
So in high school, it was, I mostly focused on the high school season when I was at school. But the second that was over, we were, all over the country playing all these different events. And it felt like I never got a weekend off. And at that time, I didn't really know how to take care of my body or do whatever, because, I was just kind of going through it. And I just thought, show up at the baseball field and everything will take care of itself. But for me, yeah, no, it was a lot of competitive playing for sure. And in that, you kind of lose the fun of baseball a little bit because you're taking it all so seriously. But being able to take a step back since I've been in college and just kind of enjoy the moment, enjoy the process of getting ready and going to go play a game that you love, that's what really changed for me, for sure.
Nice. Tim in North Carolina wants to know if the modern college athlete is more aware of the data and metrics being gathered on them, and if how it affects your approach to training and on-field play.
So yeah, when I showed up to Vanderbilt, I had never been exposed to metrics or data in my own game. So they were able to develop like a hot cold zone for me my freshman fall, right when I left for Christmas break. And they gave me, my launch angles and everything, where I was hitting the ball well, where I wasn't hitting the ball well. And as a young kid, I tried to grasp as much of it as I could and understand it. But at the same time, it was kind of unhealthy how much I was consuming, because I was more focused on the weak points than it was the strong points. And so just time being there and being able to realize like the things that you need to focus on data and metric wise don't necessarily always translate to the field, because at the end of the day, it's about you showing up and you being ready to play and having the confidence in your strengths, not the fear of your weaknesses. But it's around, and, you kind of just develop for yourself what you like, what you don't like, what's important to you, what's not important to you. but it definitely takes some time to figure out. And I'm excited to go to pro ball and get more perspective on these kinds of things, because it is something that can help with development. It's just about having the right relationships and the right communicators around you to help you understand, how to work on certain things or what you need to improve on. But yeah, I'm excited to see what that looks like moving forward. But in college, it's really just take what you need and don't think too much into it, because at the end of the day, you just got to go out there and play.
Yeah, I think you brought something up there where you said that it takes having the right perspective and the right communicators around you when it comes to taking in data, because there's so much data, and it's not just in baseball, it's in other sports too, that's out there to give you insights into your game. And I think it's such a critical piece of where the game is today, where maybe 5 or 6 years ago you get away with, I'm not going to take in any data and I'm just going to go about my business and I'll be just fine. I think it takes a very special player in today's game to be able to do that. And I think even still, those players are probably missing out on an opportunity to be even better with the data that's available. But I also think, and this is rampant in the amateur baseball environment, whether it's at the high school level, travel ball level, whatever it is, the miscommunication or the over-communication of data in such ways where it really can take you as an athlete on a trip in your own head of, well, if someone can't concisely deliver the message on what this means, I'm going to think about it and I'm going to try and figure out what it means. And a lot of times that's not a good thing. So really good perspective there. Great answer to that question. And definitely appreciate your willingness and your openness to taking in that new information. And my hope for you is that the environment that you end up in pro ball has the right perspectives and the right communicators of the data that they'll be giving you.
Yeah, me too. I appreciate it.
Zoe in Illinois wants to know if playing next to one of the best up-the-middle defenders in college baseball this year, and Enrique Bradfield, pushed you to up your game.
Oh, 100%. I mean, me and that kid would compete over everything in training or in the games or whatever. And, he's such a good guy and he's so easygoing that you're able to learn so much from him, because he's able to explain everything really well too. So if I had questions about drop steps or first movement or what I'm looking at or how to, go after a ball in the sun, on the run, that kind of thing, he was, he's as athletic as they come, and he's also as articulate as they come in explaining and teaching those things that are important. And being able just to have him in center field next to me, and being able to see the way that he moved and the way that he attacked balls in the outfield is definitely something that pushed my game up a lot higher, because I was able to see, someone as good as they come, at a front row seat. So.
Yeah, that's the beauty of going to Vanderbilt, is you got other really high-level players around you. And I know there's other schools out there that, have a good collection of high-level talent. But, I can definitely see where playing next to him every day and practicing, with him, he's, we know Enrique pretty well, and that kid's wired a special way when it comes to, the details and the competition and everything like that. So, that's a good one to have next to you.
Yeah, 100%. He's going to be a steal for whoever gets him next year. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, no pun intended.
Yeah, I didn't actually mean that one, but I'll take it.
Yeah. All right, fun one here. Matt in Connecticut wants to know what your next walk-up song will be, and also any all-time favorite bands, artists, or records.
So I think I might keep the walk-up song the same that I had in college this year. It was a pretty good song. It's Lifetime by Swedish House Mafia. Walk out right at the beginning, right when it says Lifetime for the first time. It's got a nice beat, good vibe to it, and the stadium liked it. So I think I'm going to maintain with that one. I feel comfortable with that. I know my routine that goes along with it. But as far as music and bands and stuff, I'm a big fan of my brother's band, obviously. I'm plugging right here, but in Mega Mango Band, I love them. I listen to a lot of rap music. I listen to a lot of rap music, especially around the baseball field and the weight room and all of that stuff. It's pretty hard to avoid. So we'd listen to, a lot of Lil Baby, a lot of Gunna, a lot of Young Thug and whoever else, a lot of Kodak, because we have a lot of guys from Florida on our team. So a lot of that was playing in the weight room. The first couple of years, listening to a lot of Trippie Redd and Pop Smoke because we had guys from their areas on our team. But as far as records go, I always go back to Mac Miller's older albums, like Macadelic and the one where it's like Red Doors or something like that. And then his last two albums I thought were great. And yeah, I love music, and it's fun being able to share these things with my brothers because, they're all over the place with, their musical interests and being able to play different things. So yeah, they're more on the punk rock side. I'm more on the pop and rap side, but it's still fun conversations to say the least.
Yeah, music is such a gateway to relationships and culture and camaraderie and so many different things. I really do think this was a great question, just kind of open up that door a little bit. Because I don't think that's, a piece that a lot of people get is, a lot of times, especially around baseball, and you go to a ballpark and you hear the same songs for walk-up songs and the same songs for, in between innings and all that. But, yeah, I don't know. I wish that there was a way to infuse culture a little bit more in baseball, and maybe that's the direction that baseball will ultimately go in, and that'd be great. But, appreciate you sharing all of that background. I myself was a big fan of Mac Miller. Rest in peace. Was it watching movies with the sound off?
Yeah. That's the one I'm thinking of, because I'm thinking of Red Dot Music or whatever the intro song is.
It's funny that you mentioned Red Dot Music because it came on shuffle the other day in the car, and that is one of my all-time favorite songs.
Beautiful song. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. All right, last one. Emma in North Carolina wants to know which animal you think would make the best baseball player.
Ooh. Well, I mean, it depends on what you're going for. If you want somebody who's going to track the ball down in the outfield, you got to get a golden retriever or something out there that can move well, or an Australian Shepherd. We have a couple of those guys, and they cover ground pretty fast. So I'd have to say a dog in that sense. But up at the plate, you probably want, something strong, like a bear. Probably those guys move pretty well for their size, but I don't know how well they'd swing a bat. Yeah, I'm not really too sure. I'd probably have to go with either, some kind of hunting dog in the outfield and some kind of, big grizzly bear up at the plate.
Well, there you have it. Spencer, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming on and sharing your story. Personally, I can't wait for a couple weeks to pass here so that I can start box score watching your pro debut. Enjoy the moment with your family this weekend, your friends. We'll talk to you again real soon.
I appreciate it. Thanks again, Matt.
That'll do it for this episode of the Loden Sports Outlier Sessions. Thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to continuing to bring you the brightest and most engaging guests from within the Loden Sports Network. To stay on top of what or who is coming next, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Loden Sports. Whether you enjoyed this episode on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, please like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, and we'll see you next time.